Part 23. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 221. Just like that, the two most powerful people in this battle disappeared between heaven and earth, and came to a space full of nothingness. They no longer had direct contact with the profound heaven continent until they died. Everyone was shocked when they saw this scene. They stood with their mouths slightly open and their expressions were full of disbelief. What's going on? A strong man from the semi-immortal realm was just dragged in to die with the high-level martial emperor? This, I'm afraid it's not common sense, right? A powerful half-emperor looked at the crowd and said. But what awaited was everyone shaking their heads. I don't know. But looking at the situation, this is indeed the case. Tiangong is probably going to lose. On the spirit boat. When Li Ziyun saw this scene, his expression suddenly changed. My legs and feet couldn't sit still anymore, so I stood up. Once the powerful man from the semi-immortal realm leaves, it means that the powerful martial emperor in his heavenly palace will instantly fall apart like loose sand. After all, the leader of this battle was her master, not herself. She also took the limelight from the old man, otherwise this group of people would have found an excuse to escape. But now that Li Ziyun's master and Mo Chen have disappeared together, his right to speak is of no use and no one can suppress them anymore. I believe that this group of people will evacuate this place soon and will never be associated with Tiangong again. Relationship. Tiangong has lost this battle. The result was exactly what Li Ziyun thought. When he saw the old man disappearing between heaven and earth, the people who were fighting suddenly changed from attacking to defending. Then they communicated with each other with their eyes, and then everyone began to burst out in unison. The power of spiritual energy and law reached a peak at this moment. Boom! The huge fists of the crowd attacked the powerful profound heaven sect opposite. Boom! The powerful men of profound heaven sect took dozens of steps back before they could barely withstand this terrifying blow. This was their full blow, and it was considered as an explanation to Tiangong. Then, as if they had agreed, everyone used the space orb to open the space crack and walked in without hesitation. But some people who were relatively loyal to Tiangong did not choose to leave at this time, but returned to Li Ziyun and listened to her next order. Only one powerful martial emperor remained alone and continued to fight. Seeing them leaving, many of the powerful martial emperors from profound heaven sect could not help but look stunned for a while, and it took them a few breaths to recover. These bastards are eating everything inside and out. It's a shame that I adopted them back then, but what they got in the end was betrayal. Watching a dozen martial emperors leave, Li Ziyun's face turned red, veins popped out, and he said angrily. But fortunately, only 16 strong martial emperors left. Immediately, his eyes turned to Guao on the spirit boat. Hitting it would be like scratching an itch and wouldn't touch it at all. Since Kuang-yun couldn't break the defense, there was no need to go up and fight him out of anger. After all, it was the behavior of a reckless man, and he was not arrogant. It's not that Guao is afraid, but there is absolutely no need to go through a thankless battle with Kuang-yun. Coupled with his own unique skills, even if he can't defeat the strong men in the semi-immortal realm, he can still fight the peak martial emperor back and forth without being so embarrassed. After all, as a person with a heavenly rank spirit boat, I don't have to worry about anything, because the defense power of the heavenly rank spirit boat is extremely terrifying. Qin Feng's appearance did not conceal anything. As soon as he appeared, everyone's attention was focused on him. An elder of the heavenly demon sect said doubtfully. Snap. I don't know, maybe it's the hidden powerhouse of profound heaven sect. Now that Qin Feng has the blessing of Azure Dragon, he can naturally have the strength of a high-level martial emperor. She couldn't calm down for a moment, if Guao hadn't kept pulling her and kept saying calm down and so on. There was a hint of provocation in his expression. At this moment, Kuang-yun wanted to try to see what the gap was between him and Guao. Swish. Seeing Qin Feng, Guao, who was sitting on the spirit boat, frowned slightly. He felt a familiar aura on this person. He had only felt this aura on Qin Xian. Seeing this, Guao just frowned and didn't make any body movements. Kuang Yun, who was standing opposite him, didn't care what he was thinking. Seeing this situation, Kuang Yun finally couldn't bear it anymore. With a bang, he saw a majestic sword intent emanating from his body. For a moment, Kuang Yun had a cold expression, holding a long knife in his hand, aiming at this person with a flash of lightning speed and slashing the ground with a split second. A golden sword energy struck the martial emperor in front of him with invincible force. Even if Li Ziun wanted to save him at this time, it was too late. The powerful martial emperor who was fighting Kuang Gaun looked slightly panicked when he saw this scene. If he had known this, he would have run away. Why bother fighting here? But today, I felt it in this person. But at this time, Qin Feng's own revealed strength has reached a high level. Why is this? The remaining dozen or so strong men are still capable of resisting the profound heaven section. This is also the reason why Li Ziun can calm down. Mid-air. After giving him an understatement, her eyes turned to Li Ziun beside her. He is also Qin Xian's clone, and his strength has reached the intermediate level of martial emperor. Who is this man in black robe? Why has Lao Hu never seen him before? It can withstand the full blows of several martial emperor peak experts. No matter how domineering and powerful the move Kuang Yun just used, in the eyes of heavenly rank Lingzhou, it can only be ridiculed with the word ridiculous. Li Ziun wants to catch up now, cut those people into pieces, and let them try to betray him. Kuang Yun put away the long knife and took a breath. I saw a mysterious man wearing a black robe with an unclear face appearing here. His eyes hidden under the mask looked at the scene quietly. This man was not from the Soul Palace, but Qin Feng. And the earth was also split by this crack, and a narrow chasm was opened, until the abyss could not be seen to the end. Everyone looked a little confused, because they had never seen such a strong martial emperor in profound heaven sect, and he had also reached a high-level martial emperor. The powerful martial emperor in front of him didn't react at all. He instantly disappeared into thin air and disappeared between heaven and earth. He had endured that stabbing blow just now for a long time, and now that he had used it, his whole body seemed to feel much more comfortable, and he no longer felt the aggrieved feeling he had before. That's because Qin Xian lent him his Azure Dragon. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 222. Who is this person? Why does his figure and aura look so similar to the Sect Master of Profound Heaven Sect? Guao frowned and murmured secretly in his heart, but felt something was wrong. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Is it possible that this person actually is his younger brother?" Guao actually had such an idea in his mind. But then a strong fighting spirit arose in his heart. Why? He himself doesn't know. Guao only knows that this person must be his target for the battle today. Thinking of this, Guao turned his head and whispered to Li Ziun on the side, "Ziun, let me test this person first to see if he poses any threat to us." Hearing this, Li Ziun nodded and said softly, "Be careful." Guao nodded. The next moment, Guao's figure turned into a stream of light and appeared in front of Qin Feng. When he saw the person coming, Qin Feng's face was still cold, his eyes were staring at Guao tightly, without any words. Looking at Qin Feng, who was dressed in black robes, Guao narrowed his eyes and asked aloud, "What is your relationship with the Master of Profound Heaven Sect? Why is there his aura on you?" "As far as I know, the Master of Profound Heaven Sect has no partner, let alone family." At this time, Guao did not have the arrogance that he had when he came to Profound Heaven Sect that day, but there was a trace of respect in his tone. This was Guao acting as a commoner. If it had been anyone else, he would have crushed him to death with one hand. Got it? But Qin Feng still didn't speak, but turned his head with an indifferent expression, and his bones made a cracking sound. Immediately, Qin Feng turned into a black wind and appeared in front of Guo. What was waiting for Guo was a huge fist. But how can the proud man be hit? He dodged and took a few steps back. With a cold snort, his personal emperor weapon appeared in his hand, Blood Soul Gun. As soon as the Blood Soul Gun appeared, an evil wind swept through the air. This evil wind will make people feel dizzy. It creates an irresistible mentality in people's hearts, and even Qin Feng is affected. He frowned slightly, gritted his teeth, and stopped releasing the moves. Snort. Seeing this scene, Guo snorted disdainfully. Sacrifice the blood in your hand and put it on the Blood Soul Gun. Buzz. The Blood Soul Gun was triggered. The weird lines on it are shocking, as if you will be controlled by the things inside just by looking at it. Blood silence. Guo shouted low, and a black vortex suddenly appeared above the tip of the Blood Soul Gun. A ghost appeared in the vortex, but then countless ghosts appeared in the vortex. These ghosts are all people killed by Guo back then. Some of them are innocent people, some are extremely evil people, and some are lustful people. It can be said that any emotion in the world and everyone are in this. Woohoo! The ghost let out a mournful cry, its eyes flickering with light, floating quietly around Qin Feng, making people's hearts feel like a reamer at the sight of it, and the heart was extremely painful. It seems that the ghost wants others to feel the pain in his heart. But who is Qin Feng? He is a person without any emotions. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is a killing machine. How can he talk about pain? Qin Feng smiled disdainfully, said nothing, and rushed forward with an indifferent expression. His own strength continued to evaporate. But Qin Feng's next performance made him a little disappointed. The next moment, all the ghosts slowly penetrated Qin Feng's body as if they had received some instructions. After saying that, everyone stopped talking and looked closely. If it had been me, I would have passed out long ago. Not to mention, Guo was really stunned by this murderous intention, but fortunately, he had many years of combat experience, so he quickly came back to his senses and directly crushed this murderous intention. It seems that Guo did not use all his strength that day. I have never seen this move before. Immediately, Qin Feng turned into several phantoms and appeared in front of Guo. He quickly squeezed the spell with both hands, and a black phantom appeared behind Qin Feng. His eyes were fixed on Qin Feng's next move. Ah! Two black curved blades appeared in each of the Black Shadow's hands. Every time he wears it, Qin Feng will feel the pain of bone erosion. This is the feeling of pain that penetrates into the bone marrow. It seems that at this moment, Qin Feng is not in the human world, but in the underworld, receiving the 18th floor. The torture of hell. But in the next moment, Guo's pupils shrank, his expression suddenly changed, and he regretted what he just said. When the major forces in the central region saw this scene, they couldn't help but exclaimed and praised Qin Feng. I didn't expect that I could withstand it. Although Qin Feng's move looks very powerful, to Guo it is no different from scratching an itch, and it does not pose any threat to him at all. Guo shook his head in great disappointment. He originally thought that Qin Feng's next move would cause some harm to him, but the result was too ridiculous. After all, I haven't started using the Azure Dragon I gave Qin Feng yet. Because the shadow behind Qin Feng has disappeared, this means that the murderous intention just now was the move he used. When Guo standing opposite him saw this, he smiled slightly, closed his eyes, and floated quietly in mid-air. Qin Feng couldn't be defeated by Guo's move alone, otherwise he would have used his last resort. But speaking of it, this person can be regarded as a perseverant person. This kind of pain is beyond what a person can bear, but he can withstand it with the strength of a high-level martial emperor. At the same time, two curved blades appeared in Qin Feng's hands, and the killing intent in them surged toward Gueo like a waterfall, seeming to want to engulf Gueo. He allowed the ghost to wander around him without giving in, as if he had accepted his fate. Gradually Qin Feng became a little tired and panted slightly. Qin Feng's face was distorted, he endured the pain and gritted his back teeth. Qin Feng shouted, and the next moment, all the ghosts were shaken into white mist by the shocking cry. Yes. This profound heaven sect is really a place where monsters are born. As time passed, Qin Xian had been watching what Qin Feng was suffering, but his expression did not change at all. He seemed not very worried about what Qin Feng was suffering. Yes. It seems that this is his hidden method. I don't know if this person can resist it. Seeing this scene, Gueo frowned slightly. But unfortunately, there are endless ghosts. If you kill one, two will appear. If you kill two, four will appear. If you kill four, eight will appear. In the long run, it seems that there are still ghosts in the whirlpool. Like endless ghosts, there is no way to finish them. Too weak. This is not because Qin Xian is heartless, but because he has a plan. In just a few rounds, a large number of ghosts were defeated. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 223. Now, all around Gueo are filled with black blades, which emit a purple chill that makes people go straight into the ice cave. The terrifying and deadly aura has already shocked Gueo. Because these have extremely threatened his life. Before Gueo can react, the next moment, all the blades were under the control of Qin Feng and rushed towards Gueo. Swish, swish, swish. Because of the body's instinctive reaction, Gueo began to resist desperately. All the laws and spiritual energy were continuously released, and one after another spiritual power bombardment was formed. Boom boom boom. 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 But unfortunately, Gueo couldn't resist in the end and was hit by countless blades. Ah! Gueo screamed in pain and looked ferocious. He was directly beaten back thousands of miles away. This scene made Li Ziyun, who was on the spirit boat, even more worried. His eyes were filled with tears and he was biting his lower lip, feeling a sense of pain in his heart. I couldn't help but want to catch Gueo, but before I could start, I was stopped by Tianyi Duanming and his two men not far away. Palace Master, you can't move now, don't forget that the Master of Profound Heaven Sect hasn't shown up yet. Yes, Palace Master. The two of them knelt on the ground and said solemnly. Hearing this, Li Ziyun's beautiful eyes dimmed, he sighed, calmed down, and stopped when he was about to stand up, but his slender palms were already clenched into a fist. Not far away, Gueo was kneeling on one knee, panting. A pair of gorgeous robes were now in tatters, completely ruined, with cracks everywhere. There were some minor wounds on his arms and face, and there was still a lot of bright red blood left in them, which made people look so embarrassed. How could he look like a strong martial emperor? But these injuries are not a big problem for Gueo. Although he looks embarrassed, he is not seriously injured. However, after staying for a few breaths, Gueo stood up again, staring at Qin Feng not far away, and snorted coldly. Clenching his fists tightly, his body appeared in front of Qin Feng like a hurricane, and he came up with a horizontal kick. Boom! Qin Feng wanted to block it, but he couldn't bear the blow at all. He was knocked to the ground instantly, but he gritted his teeth and stood up without any hesitation. With sharp eyes and murderous intent, he went up to fight Gueo again. Get up! Bang bang bang! But several moves in a row were easily taken by Gueo. These moves were not considered powerful in Gueo's eyes. Instead of resisting again, he aimed the Blood Soul gun at Qin Feng and launched a sweeping sweep. Boom. A terrifying horizontal slash rushed directly towards Qin Feng. Qin Feng didn't catch it at all, and was knocked down again. His body kept falling downwards, and a hole 10 meters in diameter was created. Dust and smoke instantly enveloped Qin Feng's body. Seeing this scene, Guo smiled coldly and looked down at Qin Feng on the ground. How is it? It tastes good. Cough. Ahem. There was a trace of blood on the corner of Qin Feng's mouth, but his face was still so calm. He twisted his aching arm, raised his eyes to look at Guo high in the sky and said coldly. Who is the Black Dragon? He is the lofty dragon race, the leader of all clans. Even the Phoenix clan that can compete with him has been crushed. How could he be frightened by Wusu's words? But it's a pity that this sentence is useless to the Black Dragon. Even Guo was shaken back half a step by this dragon power, and looked at the azure dragon transformed by Qin Feng with a solemn expression. Hoo. It will make people feel a sense of admiration and irresistibility in their hearts, as if the real dragon is standing in front of them at this moment. The blood soul gun in Guo's hand felt the fluctuation of the breath and let out a low roar uneasily. The sound of the gun kept vibrating, as if he didn't like the giant dragon in front of him, showing off his power in front of him. A mysterious man wearing a cyan black robe, with gentle eyebrows and a noble air suddenly appeared here. This man was Wusu. Seeing this scene, Guo's expression remained unchanged, without any hesitation, and he took the blood soul gun and slashed horizontally again. The breath of my clan. After saying this, Qin Feng's body shook, and the billowing dust and smoke enveloped Qin Feng's body and flew towards the high altitude. Wow! The strength is good, but it's still a bit lacking, otherwise I might die here today. This dragon's power is completely different from the usual dragon-shaped phantom dragon's power released by the powerful martial emperor. It is a real dragon's power, possessing a powerful power. The words fell. At the same time, the behemoth spoke human words, raised its head with two long beards, and a pair of huge dragon horns emitted terrifying thunder and lightning. In an instant, a thunder-like sound rang out in the pool. Azure Dragon roared. Roar. But then his expression became very solemn. It was not a good thing for him that the dragon was awakening. His eyes were fixed on the behemoth in the pool. Seeing this situation, Qin Feng knew that he could no longer hide, and his figure burst out with billowing spiritual power, and an azure dragon totem on his arm began to emit a fierce cyan light. He must prevent this black dragon from being born, otherwise the secret realm may collapse because of it, and even cause disasters to the world. As the master of the secret realm, Wusu does not want this to happen. Guo held the gun in one hand, and a trace of blood-red light emerged from his eyes. Countless laws and spiritual energy were continuously poured into the blood soul gun. But that's about it. Seeing this situation, Guo clenched his blood soul gun, nodded, raised his eyes to look at the blue dragon in front of him, and said. In a dark pool in Tianqian's secret realm, a huge creature suddenly opened its terrifying eyes. Black Dragon, stop releasing your breath, this is not a place for you to be arrogant. Immediately afterwards, Qin Feng's body instantly transformed into a giant green dragon of 100 feet. A dragon? Let me see how powerful this dragon is. Are you just a loach? The pool began to shake gradually, waves rolled up, and the water began to surge. The horizontal slash was instantly caught by Qin Feng, but it wasn't over yet. Guo from high in the sky once again decisively threw out hundreds of horizontal slashes, but these horizontal slashes were a bit weaker than before. But it's enough to give Qin Feng a headache. Wusu looked cold and shouted domineeringly, with a hint of unquestionable meaning in his tone. The rolling dragon power spread across the sky and the earth, shaking everyone's eardrums, making them dizzy and looking slightly absent-minded. Buzz. The next moment, a ghostly roar came from the blood soul gun. Bang. Wusu's bright eyes flashed slightly, and he looked at the water pool below with a puzzled expression. He seemed not to understand what could make the sleeping dragon wake up at this time. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 224. With an extremely disdainful expression, he looked at Wusu high in the sky and said indifferently, "How dare a small human race order me? Who do you think you are?" The black dragon yelled domineeringly, and his echoes were scattered throughout the world, as if even if the law of heaven descended today, it would be of no use. He didn't give Wusu any face at all, and even belittled his tribe because of it. Immediately, the center of the pool began to roll, and a huge vortex appeared, with traces of water suspended in it. The next moment, a huge shadow rushed out of it, soared into the sky, and hovered high in the sky. He and Wusu are on opposite sides, and a fierce battle seems to be about to break out. Looking at the huge body of the black dragon, Wusu frowned and felt an extreme danger appearing in front of him. Even so, he still didn't take a step back. I saw a golden jade longsword emerging from Wusu's hand, with stars dotted all over it like galaxy. The tip of the sword exuded a fierce chill, making people feel irresistible. Just one look at it, and the black dragon's face changed. Starting to get serious. Holy jade sword, this kind of treasure is not something you can possess. Tell me, who are your ancestors? The black dragon raised his proud head, looked at Wusu and asked loudly, his voice was so loud that it resounded throughout the world. Hearing this, Wusu breathed out a sigh of relief. This sword was not real, but a fake holy jade sword. Otherwise, he would not have stayed in this Tianqian secret realm. He would have gone to Ascension a long time ago. This time the main reason I took it out was to scare the black dragon. He replied with an indifferent expression, "Don't you know that my ancestor is a black dragon? Besides, why should I answer you?" Wusu snorted coldly, pointed his sword at the black dragon's head and said in a deep voice, "Don't tell me about your dragon race arrogance. In my eyes, you are just a beast. If I hadn't promised someone conditions, otherwise you would have turned into a loach today, and I would still be here talking to you." Wusu's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Hearing this, a trace of anger flashed in the black dragon's eyes, and the rolling dragon's power spread across the surrounding area. As dragon race, no one has ever been able to talk to him like this, but not only did he also take advantage of this person, there is no way, after all, the power of the holy jade sword is indeed not something that one dragon can resist. You can rest assured. I've already talked to you nicely, what rules do you still have to abide by? Snort. Afterwards, Wusu's figure disappeared from the place and appeared in the outside world. 100-foot azure dragon and Gueo stand opposite each other. Thinking of this, Wusu's face darkened slightly, and he sighed helplessly. Even so, he could not let the black dragon return to the outside world, otherwise it would affect the development order of Profound Heaven continent. If Tiandao is still aware of it, what will happen? The harm is even more serious. Seeing this scene, Wusu knew that the black dragon was already retreating, and there was no need to push too hard, so he put away the fake holy jade sword. After all, dragon race has a rule. As an elder, if a junior appears outside, you must go and bring him to the land of the dragon ancestor to recognize his ancestors and return to the clan. This is a rule that dragon race has had since its creation. No one can break it, no matter how powerful they are, and this is one of the reasons why dragon race can crush the Phoenix clan. After all, if you and I really fight with our abilities, the consequences will be very tragic. I believe you don't want to. I just thought about it, why not turn the conflict into friendship and let me search for you on your behalf? After the words fell, only a roar was heard. The tone was a little low, exuding a trace of anger. Outside world. Hearing Wusu say this, Black Dragon didn't say anything anymore. As soon as these words came out, The black dragon stopped releasing the power of the dragon, and his face showed a trace of hesitation, but it was only a few traces of hesitation. Until now, this was the only way. He looked at Wusu and nodded Nyoda's head. He long narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "Are you serious?" The pool water below instantly splashed with waves, with no intention of stopping. He long frowned and spoke righteously. "It's not that I can't defeat the black dragon, it's just that the black dragon's own dragon power is too strong. If I really want to defeat him, it will take too much time and energy. This is a loss after all, and there is no need at all. After all, Tianqian's secret realm still needs his law aura to maintain." The dragon's body moved and swam towards the depths of the pool. Black Dragon snorted coldly and said loudly, "No matter what rules you have to abide by, I am going to lead the descendants of my clan anyway. Even if you have a holy jade sword, I have to block it with my own strength. Why worry? Okay, I promise you." Wei Wei thought for a while, looked at Heilong and said, "Heilong, I know your dragon race has rules, but I have to abide by those conditions, so I'm sorry today, no matter what, you can't go to the outside world." Wusu he shook his head with a determined expression. This scene made Wusu look a little solemn. Black Dragon shouted loudly. Hearing this, Wusu was slightly startled and said secretly, "I really didn't expect that dragon race still exists on the profound heaven continent. No wonder this guy would wake up, but, if this is the case, there is something wrong with this matter. Trouble." Thinking of this, the aura on the black dragon shrank again, and soon the huge figure transformed into a middle-aged man wearing a black robe. Wusu raised his eyebrows. This sentence was still within his acceptance, so he nodded without fear. "I can go find that so-called junior on your behalf, what do you think?" I saw that Guao's blood soul gun had turned into a terrifying monster with 6 arms and 3 pairs of eyes. The scarlet tongue kept popping out of its mouth, which made people feel sick. The black dragon transformed into a huge dragon again, looking down at Wusu with cold eyes, and its dragon power continued to be released. Profound heaven sect outside the mountain gate. But I can say ugly things beforehand. If my descendant is seriously injured and you don't act carelessly, don't blame me for turning against him." Thinking of this, Wusu sighed slightly, looked at Black Dragon and said, "Wait for Black Dragon." After a few breaths, Shuotan once again returned to its former peace. "I have no other meaning for waking up this time. I just feel the aura of our clan in the outside world. As a senior, I naturally have to go and greet him." Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 225. This is. He actually used this move against common sense. A gloomy-looking man wearing a black robe stood above a cloud and said with a shocked expression, "This person is the leader of the Black Demon Sect, and behind him are several elders of the Black Demon Sect and a genius disciple. This person is none other than Guo Jing, who showed up during the 5 regions competition that day. Don't you know that once this move is used, heaven will notice it?" The leader of the Black Demon Sect expressed deep confusion. Seeing this scene, Qin Feng, who transformed into Azure Dragon, did not show any fear. He rose into the sky and rushed into the clouds. Then Qin Feng swung his tail and turned into a stream of cyan light, aiming at the monster in front of Guo. In the past, one's own dragon power flowed out like the Yangtze River, making people frightened and unable to arouse any resistance. Boom! The two collided and immediately produced a terrifying roar. The sound spread like a bell to the entire world, and everyone who heard the sound couldn't help but start to feel dizzy and their eardrums stung. Only a strong half-emperor can barely bear it. But even so, the momentum also caused the death of a large number of mortals and people below the martial sovereign. Countless mountains and innocent mortals died tragically in this momentum. The shouts and wailings are continuous and continuous. "It's just me. Help me. I don't want to die yet, I still have a wife and children. Seniors, please show your power. I only have one life. There was a middle-aged man kneeling on the ground, crying prostratingly, but what awaited him was silence and silence. There was wailing everywhere in the central region, and even the other four regions began to slowly shake due to this, and the towers continued to collapse. It's a pity that no one from the major forces paid attention to this scene. The death of mortals and people with low cultivation levels is not important to them. At the same time, dark clouds filled the sky. High in the sky, howling winds, lightning, and thunder, the earth shook, and the rivers were turbulent. The water flowed very quickly, and rolling stones continued to fall in it. Boom! 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 Many bird monsters began to leave here and fled to safer places. However, the actions of the monsters attracted a large group of monster hunters to pursue them. Countless monsters were captured by them, and some they were cut into meat, and some were turned into mountain monsters. But without exception, their final results are tragic. Above the clouds, at the highest point of the entire profound heaven continent, the void slowly trembled, and a cold, emotionless eye suddenly opened. The eyes were so vast that he could know everything in the world at a glance, and there was something flowing in it. There are countless great Dao and laws, and the stars in the eyes are as bright as the legendary galaxy. This is the legendary eye of heaven, the thing that dominates everything in profound heaven continent. But at this moment, the eyes of the eye of heaven suddenly began to turn blood red, and the sky that was originally filled with black clouds also began to turn blood red. The ghosts of all the dead people at this moment were revealed in it, as if heaven was angry. All the top experts felt a sense of crisis, and their souls began to tremble at this moment. Before it was over, the vast black clouds condensed into a huge whirlpool, and purple thunder and lightning began to flash in it. Even the rare purple thunder dragon began to faintly appear. There's trouble. The terrifying and deadly aura doubled Guao's pressure, and his heart was trembling. This powerful offensive made Guao unable to resist at all. As he finished speaking, he saw dark clouds rolling in the blood-red sky, thunder and lightning all over the sky, and one after another terrifying thunder. The thunder shook the sky and shook the sky. The next moment, Guao opened his eyes, quickly absorbed the power of the law, and then turned himself into a sky-high giant gun, gathering all his strength to compete with the falling giant thunder. Ding! The system warns that heaven will soon rain down thousands of thunderous catastrophes, please host to be prepared. He moved quickly, but did not look into Li Ziyun's eyes. Instead, he stared closely at the falling thunder. He straightened his body, holding a spear, and shouted, "Come on! How can I be afraid?" I saw that his whole body turned into a bright breath of law, and the surrounding space collapsed instantly from this moment, and countless spatial turbulence turned into a sharp blade, constantly colliding with Guao's limbs. When Li Ziyun saw this scene, his eyes widened, he stood up and shouted, "Ba! Ba! Ba!" When everyone saw this scene, their hearts beat hard, and their eyes hurriedly looked at Guao. Everyone did not dare to move and stared at this scene. Thunder resounded across the sky, and everyone saw a terrifying, huge thunder as thick as a bucket suddenly falling near Guao. I vaguely felt a breath of destruction coming. Ah! From this moment on, the Blood Soul gun turned into a strong law without any warning. Boom! Seeing this, the powerful martial emperor from all the major forces frowned and their expressions became serious. The strong martial emperor who was staying below raised his eyes and frowned. Ding! The system warns that heaven will soon rain down thousands of thunderous catastrophes, please host to be prepared. The sound tore his throat and went straight to his proud mind. At that moment, Guao seemed to see the dawn. Qin Xian, who was in Tianxian Palace, also received a warning from the system at this moment. Guao yelled, "Arrogant!" At this moment, a flash of light suddenly flashed in Guao's eyes, and all the sounds around him stopped suddenly and disappeared. Ding, the system warns that heaven will soon rain down thousands of thunderous catastrophes, please host to be prepared. Just like this, Guao's originally blank face began to look a little moved, his eyelids twitched, his heart tightened, and he hurriedly came to his senses. Qin Xian's unmoved face finally moved slightly after 3 consecutive warnings, and his brows furrowed to the extreme. Boom! But Guao seemed to have forgotten the pain. He closed his eyes tightly and opened his hands. From this moment on, all the space power was integrated into Guao's body. The originally powerful blood soul gun also began to split instantly. Click, click, sound like glass began to resound. Boom! Loud shouts instantly erupted from the crowd. The next moment, an aura that brought boundless pressure to all living beings began to emit. From this moment on, the powerful martial emperors from all major forces began to kneel down uncontrollably, and their bodies were restrained, like an old man who was about to die. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of Fantasy, Obtain the Sect System. Author, Red General. Chapter 226. The intersection between the tip of the spear and the giant thunder made a crackling sound. At this moment, everyone's figure seemed to be frozen, and their eyes were watching the scene closely, as if they never wanted to forget it. It's a pity that the martial emperor, who has the power to destroy the world, can withstand the catastrophe of thousands of thunders. A large amount of lightning was transmitted into Guao's mind. Ah! The painful feeling of thunder and lightning made Guao look ferocious, and he couldn't help but let out a scream. The stinging feeling in his mind made him almost faint. Guao's eyes turned blood red, and he suddenly couldn't control the power of the spear. Without the support of strength, the giant spear shattered in an instant. The powerful thunder and lightning seemed to have found its target. All of them poured into Guao's meridians. In just a few breaths, Guao turned into a trace of law. The fragments disappeared between heaven and earth. When Li Ziun saw this scene, his heart was as sharp as a knife, and he burst into tears and screamed. No! Ah, arrogant! Why? Li Ziun shook his head desperately. Why did you make such a decision? If you can't beat me, you can't beat me, but why do you want to sacrifice your life? Don't you know what the consequences of this are? This embarrasses me. You bastard! Have you ever considered my feelings, Guao? Li Ziun made a choking sound, lowered his head, his light and bright eyes kept sliding down his cheeks, his facial expression was full of sadness, and he was absent-minded for a while. Everyone could only hear her crying that came and went. Everyone's eyes widened and they looked surprised. This was the first time they saw the extremely cold Li Ziun looking like this, and everyone gradually understood the relationship between Li Ziun and Guao. I didn't expect that Li Ziun, the Lord of Heavenly Palace, would be in a partnership with Guao. Yeah, I really didn't expect that. I have to say, the two of them really have a deep relationship. Well, several people couldn't help but sigh again. It's a pity that such feelings are all gone today. The powerful men from all the powerful forces couldn't help but shake their heads. Qin Feng, who originally transformed into Azure Dragon, also condensed into a human body again. He looked at the scene quietly with his eyes, and shook his head without changing his expression, as if he was feeling sad for Guao. It can be regarded as a kind of respect given by oneself to Guao. This person dares to directly contend with the way of heaven, so he deserves to show respect to him. When Tianyi and Duanming, who were behind Li Ziun, saw this situation, they sighed slightly and their eyes dimmed for a while. The good brother back then died like this, and the two of them felt a little empty in their hearts. However, the two of them have experienced many lives and deaths, and the death of Guao will not cause any sad feelings to the two of them, So they quickly accepted it. Then he looked at Li Ziun and said, "Palace Master, we have lost this battle. I don't know what to do next." Hearing this, Li Ziun, who was lost in thought, wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes and adjusted his emotions. After all, he was also the palace master of the heavenly palace, so he couldn't show his appearance like this at this time. He looked at the two of them sideways and said, "Don't act rashly for the time being. I want to see when the master of the profound heaven sect will come out." Li Ziun's voice was hoarse and unwilling. Inside the Tianqian palace. In her perception, Qin Xian's strength was clearly only that of a mid-level martial emperor. How could his peak martial emperor strength be suppressed by him? Even slightly injured? As soon as Qin Xian appeared, all the powerful martial emperors standing nearby showed respect to him. This person is so powerful. The invincible strength given by the system is not just talk. Qin Xian did not speak, but looked at Li Ziun, and said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Xian's figure appeared in the sky above the outside world. The battle was almost over. As the man behind the scenes, it was time for him to stand up. "You can still remain so calm after the person you love dies, I have to admire you." Li Ziun was directly pushed to the ground by Qin Xian, clutched his chest, spit out a mouthful of blood, and stared at Qin Xian with his beautiful eyes. Li Ziun looked a little confused. A golden jade sword also appeared in his hand, and the coldness emanating from the sword made many martial emperor experts show a hint of fear. Seeing Qin Xian's figure, Xiao Ran quickly raised his hands respectfully and said, "Sect Master." Then his eyes looked into the distance again, with a trace of regret on his face. However, Qin Xian didn't care about Li Ziun's figure, but stared at Li Ziun's eyes coldly, and the killing intent in his eyes did not weaken at all. Li Ziun showed an angry face and gritted his teeth. The Lord of Tiangong was knocked to the ground with just one blow. Isn't this a bit unrealistic? Li Ziun struggled desperately, but unfortunately, her struggle was as useless as an ant. Instead, she struggled harder and harder, and her proud figure was also outlined by the iron chain. Qin Xian didn't speak and closed his eyes tightly, as if he was waiting for something. The next moment, a handsome and majestic man wearing a cyan black robe appeared here. This man was Xiao Ran. Qin Xian looked at the scene just now without any movement, sighed slightly, and exclaimed, "The terror of the Eye of Heaven is beyond what I can resist now." Hearing this, Xiao Ran looked a little confused. He looked up and found that it was Li Ziun. His original confused expression instantly turned into a hint of anger and murderous intent. Seeing this scene, the powerful martial emperor from all the major forces showed a hint of surprise and shock on their expressions. "You dare to come in front of me with such arrogance? You are really looking for death." Qin Xian ignored the words of these powerful men. After solving the Tiangong, it was time to deal with them. With sharp eyes, he saw the nearby space move and tear open, and a silver-white iron chain instantly wrapped around the injured Li Ziun. It's a pity that this person died in the hands of the Eye of Heaven. If so, Xiao Ran will not be able to take revenge. Cough. Qin Xian nodded slightly and pointed at Li Ziun, who was tied up with iron chains. "I found a good thing for you." Hearing Li Ziun's slightly hoarse voice, the two nodded slightly and had no objections. Although they had lost the peak powerhouse Guao, the problem was not that big. After all, the two of them were also peak martial emperor powerhouses. Hearing Qin Xian's words, Li Ziun's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Regardless of the obstructions of Tianyi and Duanming, his figure penetrated through the layers of void and came to Qin Xian. His own pressure rushed towards Qin Xian like the Yangtze River. Seeing this, Qin Xian snorted coldly, waved his hand, and an extremely powerful pressure rushed towards Li Ziun instantly. "What do you want to do? Let me go," a strong martial emperor said with wide eyes and surprise. "Let the powerful forces watching have a feast." but she was shocked in her heart. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 227. Li Xiun looked at the man in front of him who suddenly showed murderous intent towards him, and felt a little confused in his heart. I don't seem to have offended this person, right? But after seeing Xiao Ran's eyes clearly, she was instantly frightened and her face was a little horrified. You are Xiao Ran. You're not dead. Hearing Li Xiun's surprised words, Xiao Ran smiled coldly. She walked over with an indifferent expression, leaned over and held up Li Xiun's chin with one hand, looked at her beautiful face, and said coldly, "What? Are you unhappy that I'm not dead?" Li Xiun opened her mouth slightly and said nothing, lowered her head and fell into silence. There were thousands of thoughts in my heart, and the scene where I killed Xiao Ran kept reappearing. At the same time, the powerful martial emperor from all major forces saw Xiao Ran's figure, and couldn't help but express a trace of confusion and doubt in their mouths. Who is this person? Why does this emperor feel a sense of familiarity in him? But he can't remember it. I'm the same, I've seen this person's face before, but I can't remember it at all. An old man with flowing white hair shook his head, his face showing deep confusion. Only the evil emperor, the leader of the Black Demon Sect, recognized it. His pupils shrank, and he exclaimed in shock, "Tianlong Great Emperor." What? Tianlong Great Emperor? When the leaders of Suanmen, Gug and other forces heard this, they looked shocked. Don't be busy this time. They looked at Xiao Ran and found that Xiao Ran's eyes were indeed very similar to Tianlong Great Emperor. But the leader of the Black Demon Sect didn't pay attention to their expressions, and murmured to himself, "I didn't expect that he didn't die, and he was reborn in the Profound Heaven Sect." Tianlong Great Emperor. The elders of the major Black Demon sects were shocked when they heard this. They had heard of the name Tianlong Great Emperor, and he was also their idol back then. Thinking back to the original Tianlong Great Emperor, it can be said that he was the person who suppressed the Profound Heaven continent, and he deserved the words invincible in the world. But it is a pity that the news from Guao and Li Xiun was that Xiao Ran died in the catastrophe. As soon as this news came out, everyone was shocked, which made them look a little regretful. But today we saw the reborn Tianlong Great Emperor here. Can everyone not be surprised? I even want to get closer to see it. Guo Jing, who was next to the leader of the Black Demon Sect, heard what his master said and looked at Xiao Ran's tall figure with excitement. The name Tianlong Great Emperor is deeply rooted in his mind. Guo Jing has always regarded Tianlong Great Emperor as his role model. Seeing him today, it can be said that modern fans are as elated as seeing their favorite celebrities. Then he raised his eyes and looked at Li Xiun. "How do you want to die?" Then a saint-rank spirit weapon appeared in his hand. Qin Xian, who was watching the show, saw this scene and knew that he had to tell Xiao Ran about Guao's death. Otherwise, Xiao Ran's eyes showed a hint of murderous intent. The consequences will be very serious. Li Xiun took a deep look at Xiao Ran, exhaled, and said softly, "You can take what I owe you all these years. Guao is dead, and I have no intention of living anymore. One has become the lord of the heavenly palace, and the other has become the idol of all the women in the central territory. They have enjoyed their rights and desires. I really envy you too." Tian Yi's tall figure blocked Xiao Ran's sight, making him look a little unhappy. Seeing her like this, Xiao Ran sighed softly and looked at the sunset in the distance. The hatred and emotions from the past all disappeared from this moment, but it didn't mean that he wanted to spare her. "But speaking of it, your talent is really low. Tens of thousands of years have passed before you reached the peak of martial emperor. Did you forget to practice while enjoying family happiness with my good brother?" Thinking of this, Xiao Ran clenched his fists and looked stern. "I obviously admire Li Xiun so much and help her take care of her health and condition every day. Unfortunately, what I wait for in the end is not what I want, but betrayal. Tianyi didn't pay attention, but leaned down and said to Xiaoran with a smile on his face, "Tianlong Great Emperor, I have admired you for a long time. I have heard of your fame since I was a child. I admire you very much." At the same time, the major forces in the central region looked at the scene with smiles and some gloating expressions on their faces. I couldn't help but feel a hint of bitterness in my heart. Xiaoran didn't hesitate when he saw this. He raised his knife and chopped it down. Xiaoran raised the knife and looked at Tianyi coldly, and said in a deep voice, "Tianyi, if you still think of me as a senior, then stand down and don't interfere with my dispute with her." Xiaoran's eyes glowed with dazzling golden light. After a few breaths, they calmed down and murmured. Xiaoran didn't say anything. Of course he knew Tianyi. At that time, Tianyi was just a junior who had just joined the martial emperor. He rarely paid attention to it and would only teach him for a few hours when he had nothing to do. As soon as Xiaoran finished speaking, 3 powerful martial emperor figures appeared around him. The 3 of them were Suzi, Quang Gaiyun and Lei Wuxian. It was a long knife, and the long knife was covered with strong flames. The blazing firelight illuminated Li Ziyun's face, but she did not have any fear, but felt a sense of relief in her heart. I saw that the person coming was Tianyi. On the other hand, Xiaoran looked at his hand. I have been living in a backward place for so many years. If I hadn't been lucky enough to join the Profound Heaven sect, maybe I wouldn't be able to see you until 100 years later. Xiaoran's words touched Li Ziyun's heart, but he still said nothing and lowered his head slightly. When approaching Li Ziyun's neck, a burst of spiritual energy suddenly knocked Xiaoran back several meters. After saying this, Li Ziyun closed his eyes, as if waiting for death to come. The power exuded by the 3 people shattered the void and rushed directly towards Tianyi with overwhelming momentum. Xiaoran coughed slightly, covered his chest, and looked at this person with a frown. "Huh?" Xiaoran looked at Li Ziyun and teased. Seeing this situation, Tianyi, who was the peak martial emperor, had a gloomy expression on his face. He really didn't expect that the power of the 3 people would actually make him feel a little pressure. Then he waved his hand, and the next moment, an impression entered Xiaoran's mind. "I really don't know if you are stupid or smart for holding on to heaven's will." Hearing this, Xiaoran looked at Li Ziyun in surprise. He really didn't expect that the relationship between these 2 people would progress to this point. However, Xiaoran glanced at the powerful men from all the major forces, snorted coldly, and said nothing more. He stood up, looked at Li Ziyun and said indifferently, "After so many years, you and that guy Guao should live the same life pretty good, right?" There was a hint of self-mockery in Xiaoran's expression. Originally, everything belonged to him. After a lot of training, Lei Wuxian has reached the emperor realm of martial arts. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 228. They all very much hope that the 2 forces will suffer a lose-lose situation, so that they can take advantage of it and create greater benefits for their own forces. But unfortunately they will be disappointed this time. Qin Xian, who was standing high in the sky, narrowed his eyes. Since everyone is looking for death, there is no need to hide his own methods. The next moment, a giant hand in the sky condensed directly into the void. The giant hand rushed towards Tianyi with the sound of tearing apart the space. Tianyi was a little stunned and didn't react at all. He was directly pinched firmly by the palm of his hand. "Let me go." Tianyi kept rolling like an ant on a hot pot, struggling all the time. "It's a pity that this is all useless." Qin Xian didn't mean to hold him back. He gently squeezed his palm, and saw the strength of the giant hand in the sky increase instantly. "Ah!" Tianyi let out a tragic cry, and was instantly crushed by the giant hand of the sky without leaving any fragments of his soul. In this way, a peak powerhouse in the mainland died with an expression of unwillingness. Perhaps his legend will be left behind in future generations. The people watching looked a little confused when they saw this scene. What's happening here? Isn't a peak martial emperor too worthless? It would be too fake to die like this. Such an idea came to everyone's mind. Immediately afterwards, hundreds of space cracks were suddenly torn apart in the surrounding void, and countless figures in black and purple robes were seen stepping out of them, holding sharp blades and looking at the major forces with cold eyes. People. In just a few breaths, figures in black and purple robes spread all over the world, and the darkness made all the major forces look a little panicked. They are from the Second Palace. A young man recognized these people and shouted, but unfortunately, as soon as he spoke, he was pierced directly between the eyebrows with a sharp blade. He fell down with his mouth open. I saw the figures of Soul Demon and Shadow Demon appearing in front of the powerful martial emperor from all major forces. Seeing the panic and fear of the major forces, the two of them were very satisfied. They turned their eyes and looked at the leader of the Black Demon sect with an indifferent expression. Evil Emperor, are you ready to surrender or resist? I only give you two choices. The Soul Demon made a cold voice. This sound made the weak people below look frightened, and they did not dare to look directly into the eyes of the Soul Demon. As for Shadow Demon, he didn't say anything. He just watched with arms crossed and cold eyes. A pair of cold eyes also glanced at everyone from time to time. Suddenly, the powerful men of the major forces began to feel at a loss and began to worry. The formation hidden in the dark was also fully illuminated at this moment. Everyone thought they could still escape with the help of the space gems, but unfortunately as soon as the formation came out, they found that the escape treasures and other treasures were not useful at all. The last thoughts in their hearts were a glimmer of hope also disappeared at this moment. You have planned all this a long time ago. Yes or no? The master of the ancient pavilion stood up, pointed at the Soul Demon and asked loudly, without any fear at all. I saw a radiant soul appearing from between Li Ziyun's eyebrows, and then used an instinctive reaction to escape as fast as possible. Such an idea emerged in the minds of everyone in the heavenly palace. When Qin Xian saw this scene, his expression did not change, and he did not look worried at all. Xiao Ran was shocked and quickly chased after him. He could not give Li Ziyun a chance to be reborn. Ha ha ha. But everyone is still a little scared, because this is only a short period of time, and there is no guarantee that they will survive in the end. Otherwise, how could these things happen to them? It's a pity that the opportunity has been lost, and regret has no effect. After all, with the spirit boat, they don't need to worry about the encirclement and suppression of the Second Palace in a short time. They couldn't help but look a little regretful. They should have escaped with the group of martial emperors. In this battle, the final winner is the Second Palace after all. Even the top forces in the mainland, Tiangong and Profound Heaven Sect, are not aware of it. Unfortunately, with his martial saint speed, how could he catch up with Li Ziyun, who has the peak martial emperor speed? What? When the old man heard this, he quickly looked around and found that everyone in Profound Heaven Sect was standing there perfectly fine, not showing any sign of being controlled by the formation. After chasing for a while, the soul was no longer in sight. The Soul Demon's eyes revealed a trace of amusement and regret. Li Ziyun, it's over. Now the palace master of their heavenly palace has been captured again, and he has hooked up with a peak martial emperor. The final result is death. Can he escape even if he resists? The Soul Demon smiled darkly and nodded, yes, you have already fallen into our trap when this war started. The major martial emperors in the Tiangong also looked at each other, and for a moment they didn't know what to do. Their palace masters had all been captured. Is it necessary to fight this battle again? Unfortunately, this is impossible. Unless the master of the ancient pavilion is stronger than the Soul Demon, no one can kill the other if they are of equal strength. Li Ziyun's pure and flawless neck fell instantly with the knife in his hand, and blood spurted out like a waterfall. I also have to feel sad for you. And everyone knows the methods of the second palace. An old man with white beard and hair sighed deeply. The grudge between you and me has been resolved. There are only a few in our past and present lives. To be honest, I actually still have some feelings for you in my heart. After all, how can the person I love forget? But it's a pity, I'm very disappointed with your answer. Disappointed? No chance. The spirit boat cannot move, it is completely locked by the formation. If the spirit boat moves, the underworld formation will be locked directly, and then their last glimmer of hope will be gone. In just a few words, everyone's lives have been firmly controlled by the underworld formation. As long as they move, the formation will kill them without hesitation. But someone started to refute him at this time. Old man, haven't you seen it yet? The second palace and profound heaven sect are in the same group, otherwise why would this formation only be useful to forces like us, but not profound heaven sect? Nothing happened. But this look made the Gug Pavilion master so angry that he wanted to hit him so much that he clenched his fists. If looks could kill, the soul demon would already be riddled with holes. The old man collapsed to the ground, shook his head, his eyes showing deep despair. Xiao Ran stood in front of Li Ziun and said solemnly, "It's a pity that you don't realize it, but instead you take pleasure in your misfortune." Xiao Ran shook his head regretfully and did not hesitate any more. Only the expressions of the people in the heavenly palace who are on the heavenly rank spiritual level are better than those of the other major forces. Although his head fell to the ground and his body was separated, Li Ziun was not completely dead yet. As long as he reached the martial emperor, he still had a chance to survive. That is the soul, which can also be called the soul. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 229. I saw Qin Xian's palm piercing the shattering void sky directly, spanning hundreds of miles, crushing Li Ziun's soul in an instant, without even giving her a chance to be reborn. After finishing, Qin Xian's voice resounded in the minds of all the martial emperors. Let's take action and deal with this group of people immediately. Don't waste time. I have some important things to tell you later. Yes. After hearing this, everyone nodded repeatedly and looked at the Tiangong, Black Demon Sect and other forces with indifferent expressions. The next moment, everyone's murderous intent was revealed, and they rushed forward without hesitation. At the same time, Fang Gu, who was in the cave, saw this situation, looked at the man in black robe and said, "Second uncle, should we take action now?" The man in black robe nodded, "Of course it's okay, but I have to remind you. Nearly all the strong men in this battle are above the realm of martial saint. The aura they exude cannot be underestimated. It is easy to kill you directly, so the two of you must act carefully. If you encounter an unstoppable force, people, please step back immediately, do you hear me?" The man in black robe turned to look at the two of them and whispered. Hearing this, the two nodded without any worry at all. Seeing this scene, the man in black robe said nothing more. With a wave of his hand, the three figures appeared in the sky. The people who followed the second hall joined the battle, but the two of them could only fight according to the situation inside, barely playing a supporting role. The man in black robe also found his opponent. While fighting, he used a trace of consciousness to keep an eye on the two of them, just in case they encountered any unexpected situation, so that he could quickly escape and rescue them. When the major forces saw the menacing crowd, their hearts tightened and they quickly stood up to resist. It's a pity that these are all in vain. Under the suppression of the formation, they can't resist at all. With one movement and spell casting, the underworld formation will immediately lock them in, and the only thing waiting for them is death. Only the martial emperor can shuttle back and forth in the Huanquan formation and barely resist the attack of the second palace. Boom. 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 Ah. 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 Roaring sounds, shattering sounds, and screams resounded between heaven and earth from time to time, and various spiritual energies and laws shone in front of everyone's eyes from time to time. The situation was completely one-sided, and the major forces were almost unable to hold on. Phew! There was a wheezing sound that came and went. I saw the master of the ancient pavilion paralyzed on the ground with a pale face, his left arm had fallen off, and the blood on it was flowing, and he was dying. Opposite him, the soul demon had his hands behind his back, his eyes were joking, and he looked at him provocatively, as if he was looking at an ant. In addition to the master of the ancient pavilion, the other masters of the Black Demon Sect and the master of the Suanman Sect are almost unable to resist. They all have too much time to take care of themselves, and no one can help anyone. He could only watch a famous strong man die in front of his eyes, and the situation in the field became increasingly tense from this moment on. Only Tiangong is still resisting tenaciously, relying solely on the powerful defense of the heavenly rank spirit boat. An hour passed slowly. There were only a few people left in the field. Those who stayed behind were all the leaders of the major forces, and the rest, such as disciples and elders, all died without exception, and no one survived. The robes of several people were already stained with blood, their hair was disheveled reaching their waists, their faces were very ugly, and the emperor weapon in their hands was dripping with the blood of the person who had just killed someone. They completely lost their previous high-spirited and confident appearance, and instead looked embarrassed. And there were corpses with broken limbs and severed heads everywhere around these people. These are the disciples and elders of several people. The blood has dyed countless mountain peaks red, and the hot blood keeps falling downwards. From the outside, it looks like a waterfall flowing downwards, and the thick smell of blood spreads for thousands of miles, making people feel sick. I'm afraid that within a few months, the blood will be difficult to completely dissipate, and may even accumulate into a corpse refining place, but Qin Xian will prevent this from happening. Smelling the strong smell of blood, everyone in the second hall let out weird laughter, and a pair of blood-red eyes showed a trace of blazing heat. They started to get excited. Everyone enjoyed this feeling of killing and couldn't help but get immersed in it. Guys, do you still want to resist stubbornly? You must understand the current situation clearly. If you take refuge in me, I will be merciful and spare your lives. Shadow Demon looked down at everyone and said in a consultative tone. These people are all powerful martial emperors. If they accept them, their power will definitely increase significantly. Snort. Hearing these words, the evil emperor snorted coldly, with an extremely disdainful expression. He, who was in a high position, would not condescend to surrender to the Soul Palace and the Shadow Palace. Pointing at Shadow Demon and others, he gritted his teeth and cursed. You are just a group of demons, beasts that eat human blood and hunt bones. You still want us to surrender? Don't even think about it. Even if I die, I will not surrender to you, hum. The sound was extremely loud and reached the ears of everyone present. Hearing these words, Shadow Demon turned his head and looked at him coldly. A trace of killing intent arose in his heart, but he still endured it. He. Demon. This sentence is so funny. I would like to ask, who is the devil? Did we become a devil just because our second palace defeated your group of forces? Several people looked at each other and said nothing. Only the evil emperor continued without fear of death, isn't it true? They are all dead anyway, so he has to live a happy life. Shadow Demon shook his head and said nothing, but there was a trace of contempt in his eyes. This principle is so good and wonderful. Then his expression turned cold and he said in a cold voice, since you won't surrender, I don't need to say anything more. I will help you even if you want to die. As soon as Shadow Demon finished speaking, he waved his hands to everyone in the second hall, and his meaning was very clear. Seeing this scene, everyone laughed strangely, waved their sharp blades, and rushed towards the remaining people. Boom! After a few breaths, only the riddled corpses of those few people were left in the field. Shadow Demon coldly brushed aside the corpses of several people, and then looked at Kuang Yun and others not far away. Now the only remaining force in the field is Tiangong. After constant blows, the formations of the two spirit boats could no longer hold up and began to shatter. Everyone in the heavenly palace kept retreating in panic. Seeing this scene, a few people showed no mercy and went straight to kill him. Ah! Amidst the endless screams, half of the dozen remaining martial emperors in the Tiangong were dead. The other half knew they were outmatched and had already begun to beg for mercy. My lord, I am willing to surrender. I am willing to work as an ox or a horse for you. Please spare my life. A powerful martial emperor begged for mercy with tears streaming down his face. He was no longer as high-spirited as before. Rebirth of Fantasy, obtain the Sect system. Author, Red General. Chapter 230. Once upon a time, it was only others who asked for mercy from him. How could he ask for mercy from others? But unfortunately, Kuang Yun just glanced at him coldly, shook his head with contempt in his eyes, and without hesitation, cut him off with one knife. Phew! The heads are separated. Our sect never accepts people who surrender. Then he raised his head again, brandished his long knife, and violently attacked the last spirit boat. Boom! 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 Countless collision sounds were heard, but unfortunately it was not broken. The hearts of everyone on the spirit boat were in their throats. Seeing that it was not broken, everyone could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. But then the defensive shield above cracked. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes widened. How is this going? It wasn't broken just now, so why is it suddenly broken again now? A trace of confusion arose in everyone's hearts, but then they were filled with fear and worry. Seeing the crack, Kuang Gaiyun smiled and clenched the long sword. The aura on his body gathered to the highest point at this moment, and the strong sword energy directly slashed towards the spirit boat. Boom! The spirit boat was instantly torn apart, and everyone on it was reduced to ashes, disappearing into the world without even feeling pain. Only Duanming could barely withstand this attack. As the peak martial emperor, he was so embarrassed. It was really ridiculous to see him. Just when Duanming was about to find a chance to escape, 6 powerful martial emperors appeared around him. Then, under the all-out offensive of the Huangquan formation and the cooperation of many martial emperor experts, Duanming couldn't bear it no matter how strong he was. He spit out a mouthful of blood and was directly controlled. Seeing this scene, Qin Xian directly summoned the demon suppression tower in the sect, and finally deployed a control formation, imprisoning Duanming inside, and he would never be able to get out. After all, this person still has some use, so Qin Xian won't kill him for now. A few hours later, the battle was over, and the scene was horrific, but to them who were used to big scenes, they didn't care much. All the martial emperor experts from the profound heaven sect came to Qin Xian, raised their hands respectfully and said, "The sect master has solved them all." Qin Xian did not speak, but looked behind a boulder 100 miles away. There is another person. Everyone raised their eyebrows and looked at each other. They remembered that they had all been solved. How could anyone be still alive? Qin Xian did not explain, his palm pierced the void, and directly caught the person here out of thin air. The next moment, a woman wearing a pink dress and a pretty face appeared here. There was fear and worry in her eyes, and her hands and feet were curled up together. This appearance made her face slightly moved when everyone saw it, but then there was a trace of regret and self-blame in her heart. If Qin Xian hadn't discovered it, they wouldn't have known that one of them was hiding. Son of Fortune. Qin Xian frowned slightly, but then he relaxed. As the son of fortune, it didn't seem strange that he could survive an unprecedented battle. Accepting disciples. Killing them. Two decisions came to Qin Xian's mind. He has already killed all the senior brothers and sisters in her section. Even if she is allowed to join, she will definitely be a disaster in the future. Therefore, Qin Xian's expression became serious, and his murderous intention was revealed. He grabbed the woman's white neck with one hand and tightened his grip. The woman's pretty face suddenly showed a trace of ferocity, and her hands and feet kept struggling. Just when Qin Xian was about to kill her, there was a burst of thunder in the sky. A powerful and terrifying aura looked towards this. Ding, host, this is only available after the system is updated. What's more, the host didn't ask, so the system didn't answer. An unbearable shock arose in his heart, and he looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. Heavenly Palace. Upon hearing this, Qin Xian frowned slightly and stopped what he was doing. I saw that everywhere in the Central Territory, the top sacred land was secretly destroyed one after another, countless disciples were killed, and the scene was bloody. This place no longer has its former splendor. There are debris and rubble everywhere. The originally huge and splendid palace has been completely shattered, and there is no life left. Seeing this, Qin Xian did not hesitate and directly spent 100,000 mission points in the system mall to buy the heavenly pearl. The people in the second palace naturally saw them, but they were too lazy to care. All the forces that participated in the war were wiped out by them. Now the only force left is Tiangong. Damn it, system, you didn't say that you can get rewards for killing Son of Fortune? What's going on? Then according to the instructions of the system, the heavenly pearl was used. With a click, the heavenly pearl shattered. The next moment, a breath directly covered the gaze of heavenly Deo. The woman's eyes widened, and her soul was completely destroyed at this moment. Immediately, under Qin Xian's gaze, everyone led the people in the second hall and disappeared. Ah! Well. Qin Xian sighed helplessly. If he had known this was the case, he would have gone straight to capture Son of Fortune. This is much faster than completing tasks and practicing all the time. Hearing the shouts, the four people stood up immediately, with respectful expressions on their faces. Seeing this, the soul demon's face was shocked, and then he nodded respectfully. Shaking his head, Qin Xian didn't think too much. He looked at everyone with a majestic expression and said in a deep voice, "This mission has not been successfully completed. Guangyun, Suzi, Soul Demon, Shadow Demon. Ding, the host can purchase the Heavenly Pearl. The Heavenly Pearl has the ability to conceal the way of heaven. In this way, you will not have to worry about killing Son of Fortune." Seeing the figures of several people, Qin Xian ordered, "The four of you immediately lead all the powerful men in the second hall to eliminate these forces quickly and do not leave any people or residue behind. Do you understand? You absorb this." The sound of the system also came at this moment. Nodding, even if Qin Xian didn't say anything about this matter, they would secretly send someone to solve it. Seeing this, Qin Xian nodded. In order to prevent the appearance of the Son of Luck after the destruction of the clan, Qin Xian secretly gave the Luck Pearl to the Soul Demon. Ding, congratulations to the host for killing Son of Fortune. Special rewards include 2 Peak Martial Emperors, 1 White Tiger Cub, and 1 Luck Bead. Ding, host, this person is the Son of Fortune. If he is killed forcibly, it will attract the attention of heaven, so please be careful, host. Then what do you think we should do? After everyone heard this, their eyes shone with a golden light. Hearing this, Qin Xian raised his eyebrows. A few hours later. Seeing this scene, Qin Xian did not hesitate, fearing that something outrageous would happen, and immediately pointed his finger between the woman's eyebrows. Someone wanted to take care of it, but found out that it was someone from the second hall, and hid quickly, fearing that he would be caught. High in the sky, the original terrifying power suddenly disappeared, and Qin Xian no longer felt like he was being pressed to death.